Greetings there, people of YouTube. Today I'm gonna show you a tour, world tour, on my favorite Pirates of the Caribbean ship from the movies in the Minecraft Pirates of the Caribbean mashup pack or world. So let's go, and let's go to the server, a save file. My apologies in advance if I seem to cough in between shots and takes, because I've been sick for 2 weeks. I mean aggressively sick. An aggressive cough, runny nose, headaches, and so much more. It really sucked. It feels like there's a hair in the back of my throat just stuck there and I can't get it out. That's how it feels. So, excuse me if I seem to cough in between shots, especially if the cough ends up becoming quite violent and vile. But that shouldn't ruin the fun of the video, I think. Okay, it has loaded. It is night. I absolutely detest doing stuff at night, so I'm gonna go through the day. And yes, just so you don't start complaining, yes, it is creative. Deal with it. So this is the captain's quarters of the ship. Can you guess what it is? That's right, the HMS Endeavour. Here is a door. This is something I added to make it more movie accurate, even though it's not that movie accurate to begin with, but they did a really awesome job regardless. Oh, I stood on the barrel. I may have added a few things here and there. But first I'm going to show you the outside. I'm just going to walk around on the deck for now. So this is walking to the front. As you can see, there's the Dutchman. There's the beach where normally the treasure would be buried. And you see a building over there. Well, that's something I've been building there myself in creative mode. Not sure why, but I just have to build something that doesn't match with the whole scenery at all. So this is the front. You like stand on the deck, watch as you see the sea, and of course that big rock, which is the conclave where the Brethren Court meet. Now this is going back in, then moving towards the stern of the ship. We're gonna go up there. So I'm gonna walk around the deck for a bit and tell you. So here is where Beckett would stand in the movie, watching forward, looking at the scenery, etc., etc. Here's like the stern. You can walk all the way up, go to the back. I added these lanterns too, to once again make it a bit more movie accurate and light up the area so it doesn't get absolutely bomb spawned by a bunch of mobs. As you can see, there's the Black Pearl there. This island over here is where Port Royal is. And there is the Cannibal Island. Part of the island that's the Cannibal Island. So here's like a big glass thing, which of course is the roof, skylight. There's a zombie that just fell down. Very glad it died. Then of course you have here, it is on a much larger scale than the actual ship would have been. So the proportions are upscaled quite a bit. And I'm going to show you the side a bit. Here's the side. It has a black hull, yellow sides, and that goes all the way to the back. The back has, of course, black and gold or yellow or whatever. Then you have, of course, this one, the cannons. It's a very quick overview, so the video is already long. So this is the beak head. This is the bowsprit, the foremast, the mainmast, and of course the mizzenmast. I don't know all these fancy sail names, I'm afraid, even though I should know, but somehow I don't. And this is the captain's helm, or the ship's wheel. This is where you steer the ship, and since these ships were historically quite large, you have to, like, stand on the helm with multiple different people pulling on these different wheel handles. So you steer in between. You can steer the ship to different directions Looks like you need 1, 2, 3, 4, 8 people to steer this ship, just to steer it. These ships historically require a lot of crew, and the game doesn't have crew mods, so you can't exactly spawn in a bunch of crew members. It is mobile after all, you can't ask too much about it. And then of course you have the hull, which has this large area, which is a gun deck. There are cannons, hammocks. These doors I added myself, once again make it more accurate and feel less like an open wind place where a bunch of wind would howl through. Probably it would have happened in a storm, the real thing, with these stairs. Chests contain nothing of real interest. Then of course here's another capstan. Not quite sure what it's doing there, but it probably has a purpose. Here's the other quarter or cabin, which is a long table with some chairs, and of course 2 different bunk rooms for your high-ranking officers. 2 hammocks, 2 chests, pretty good deal. Very nicely done with the windows and with detailing. Try to make it look as nice as they can without overdoing it on the aesthetics. Here, pretty much the same thing, just on the other side. Table, 2 hammocks, 2 chests. And of course you have these doors closing here. And since this gun deck is pretty large, it's the upper gun deck. Then here is a stair, nicely done with those things. And this stair leads to the middle gun deck, which is where the ship's medium weight guns would be. Because these first-rate ships had like the heaviest guns on the bottom, the lighter weight guns on top to have balancing stability. This is apparently the ship's kitchen or galley, where they cook all the food for the sailors and those on board. Then of course you can go further back, and this is also where the last quarter area is of the back galley. And this one is strange and pretty interesting, but I'll share it regardless. Because, tell me why. Why do you need an entire pub on this particular part of the ship? This should be officers' quarters, not a pub. Like, here should be more beds and, like, rooms and tables and shit, This could be the strategy room, but instead they made it into a pub. It's a funny little reference to British pub culture, and I'm not saying pop culture, but pub. Pub. P-U-B. Of course, in this chest, there is a bunch of stuff, such as mushroom stew and other things. Some things I put there, like this bucket I put there myself, because I had it in my inventory and needed it gone. This is, of course, a very strange, but pretty fun addition overall. This is a spacious area, too. Then, of course, you close these doors, and you enter. This is like the middle gun deck, so here would be like the medium weight cannons on such a ship. So yeah. Then of course the lower gun deck, which is very strange, because on this model it's the slimmest deck, yet in real life this is where the ship's heaviest guns would be, and also where the ship would actually be at its widest. Here of course there's a front with some small storage, some barrels of rum and some chests containing nothing. This of course contains a bunch of stuff, and of course a cobweb, because spiders could go on board and make spider webs. Yeah, at sea you're not safe from spiders, pal. Then of course you have this mast being very large and standing in front of you. Historically these decks were very dark and low. Here of course I added these doors, and I added a bunch of these barrels to like store stuff in. They naturally weren't here, but this is where the ship's helm connects to. This is the steering. This is where there would be a rope on the helm, like multiple ropes that connect to this thing. It would swing it around with every turn, turning the rudder. Yeah, I know how it works somehow. And this, of course, not the lowest level you can enter, because the ship has 1 more level below, or 2 more. Down here is the deepest bilge. Here's where there would be ammunition storage, cargo storage, and of course livestock such as chickens and easy to maintain livestock, which is why these are here. Like, easy to maintain livestock would be here. And of course you have more of this here. And this is a big barrel. There's a bunch of like cargo, wood and other stuff. And of course a chest containing some carrots, bread and beets. That's okay sound, nothing to worry about. Then of course you have more of this pretty crazy stuff. A little bunch of stuff and really well done. This of course also the deck where you would have the spare cannons. And down here is another deck. Like the very bottom of the ship, like the deepest bilge. And here is more storage for like liquor and barrels, other stuff. Historically, these things were very complicated and expensive to build. They've done a really good job to make the ship believable and seem worthy of being known. I really love the attention to detail they did to make it seem like an actual functional military warship. I do however think that the lower gun deck, despite carrying the heaviest guns, is a little cramped. But I guess that's just my mind making things worse than it is. And that kind of concludes the tour of this ship. So I'm gonna go upwards, all the way up the decks. And I'm gonna... oh no, wait. I haven't given you a full tour of the rear cabin yet. Of course, it is turning night again, which is annoying. But it happens, you know. So here's like a bunch of stuff I added to it. This smoker with potatoes, this crafting table and stuff. But unfortunately, I will show that when I'm done sleeping in this game, because in Minecraft it turns night pretty quickly. Which is partially unfortunate. But this is the sleeping area. Normally there's like blocks of wool here, but I placed a hammock so I can actually sleep here. This is Beckett's big cabin. The big globe, a bunch of maps and like books and stuff. This cake I placed there myself. And of course you have this little thing. Of course there is a feature, but I'll show that feature later. Now here is another room. A very bookish room with a furnace, which is probably where you heat things up. Historically, this is where the captain's toilet would be, or the admiral's toilet. Of course, what I like is this little light and this skylight. It's really nice. This, of course, I added. Then, of course, you have this area, which is where 2 guns are, apparently a couple of bookshelves, and a few chests, which I extended. Then, of course, this is a very large area. I placed this clock here, and I placed these blocks here to make it seem like those old grandfather clocks. Crafting table, nothing special. Even though in creative you don't need it, so yeah. But yeah, that concludes the tour of the HMS Endeavour, my favorite ship from the movies, and I believe they did what they can to make the ship seem really interesting, impressive, and like imaginative in here. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did enjoy it, leave a like. If you did not enjoy it, then I guess that's also pretty fair. Then don't leave a like. Comment if you wish. Don't comment if you don't wish. And in the meantime, see you later, goodbye, and until we meet again next time.